My name is Bethany Brooks, and I'm 34 years old. The moment my father called me just a babysitter in front of 300 medical professionals, I knew it was time to reveal the truth about who really held the power in that room. For years, I'd endured his dismissive comments about my little teaching job while he praised my brother's medical career. But standing in that ballroom, watching him bask in his 40 years of surgical excellence, I felt the weight of the Harper Foundation appointment letter in my purse. He had no idea that his disappointment daughter now controlled the fate of his hospital's biggest grant application. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Let me take you back 3 months to when this all began. 3 months before that humiliating night, we gathered for our monthly family dinner at my parents' colonial in Westchester. Dad carved the roast with surgical precision while outlining his upcoming celebration. 4 decades of saving lives, he announced, not looking up from the meat. The hospital's pulling out all stops. Black tie, the works. Michael, my older brother, raised his wine glass. You deserve it, Dad. How many triple bypasses now? 800? 812. Dad's voice swelled with pride. He turned to Michael. I want you to present my Lifetime Achievement Award. I'd be honored. Then Dad's gaze landed on me. You'll come, won't you, Bethany? I know your schedule is flexible. Flexible. That's what he called managing 32 preschoolers, developing curriculum, and completing state assessments. Of course I'll be there. Good. Your brother will present my Lifetime Achievement Award. You just need to show up and smile. Mom passed the green beans without meeting my eyes. 2 years. That's how long it had been since Dad asked about my work. 2 years since he'd acknowledged that I'd been promoted to lead teacher, that I'd implemented a revolutionary early learning program, that parents were driving across district lines to enroll their children in my class. My phone buzzed. An email notification from Harper Foundation. No phones at dinner, Dad said automatically. The same rule from when we were teenagers. Sorry. I slipped it back into my pocket, but not before seeing the subject line. Final interview invitation, Director of Education position. Michael launched into a story about his latest diagnosis, a rare cardiac condition he'd caught. Dad hung on every word, occasionally interjecting with his own experiences. Mom nodded along, asking the right questions at the right moments. I pushed peas around my plate, thinking about that email. The Harper Foundation was the largest charitable organization in the state, managing over $200 million in assets. Their education director position had opened up after Dr. Patricia Henderson retired. My mentor, Dr. Patterson, had encouraged me to apply, though I hadn't told anyone in my family. Earth to Bethany, Michael said. Dad asked if you're bringing anyone to the gala. No, just me, Dad sighed. Maybe you'll meet someone there. Plenty of eligible doctors. Because apparently, my worth was measured not just by my career, but by whether I could snag a man with an MD after his name. As I helped Mom clear the dishes, my mind drifted to my college graduation 12 years ago. Dad had invited half his department to watch his children receive their degrees. Michael had graduated from pre-med the year before, already accepted to Johns Hopkins. Me? Early childhood education at Teachers College, Columbia. This is Bethany, he'd told Dr. Reeves, his colleague. She's going into teaching. Elementary level, well, actually younger, preschool. How nice, Dr. Reeves had replied, that polite smile people give when they don't know what else to say. Not much schooling required for that, is it? Not like medical school, Dad had laughed. I'd stood there in my cap and gown, master's degree in hand, while he reduced 4 years of intensive study to babysitting. He never mentioned my thesis on cognitive development in early childhood. Never mentioned my 4.0 GPA. Never mentioned that Columbia had offered me a position in their research department, which I'd turned down because I wanted to work directly with children. Bethany's always been good with kids, he'd continued. Patient. Not everyone's cut out for the hard sciences. Michael, only in his second year of medical school then, had gotten a full introduction. My son's at Johns Hopkins, top 10% of his class. He'll specialize in cardiology like his old man. The pattern never changed. Every family gathering, every introduction, every proud parent moment went to Michael. I was the afterthought, the also child, the one who works with children. "You're quiet tonight," Mom said, pulling me back to the present as we loaded the dishwasher. "Just thinking." "About what?" "About how Dad's never once asked to see my classroom. Michael's been practicing for 2 years, and Dad's visited his clinic 4 times." Mom's hands stilled on a plate. "Your father loves you." "I know he does, he just doesn't respect me." "Teaching shapes minds before they're corrupted by ego," I said, louder than intended. Dad's voice carried from the living room. "What was that?" "Nothing important," I called back. It never was. My phone buzzed again. The Harper Foundation, confirming my interview for Thursday at 2. The same day, Dad wanted me to help coordinate his gala preparations. I typed back, "I'll be there. Some opportunities come once. Respect should be constant. But if I couldn't have the latter, I'd damn sure take the former." Later that night, I sat in my apartment reading the Harper Foundation email for the 5th time. Director of Education, overseeing $50 million in educational initiatives, managing partnerships with schools across the state. The position would triple my salary, but more importantly, it would put me in rooms where decisions were made, where real change happened. If I stayed silent, stayed small, what would I lose? Not just this job, though that alone would be devastating. I'd lose the chance to revolutionize early childhood education across New York. The Foundation's new initiative aimed to bridge the gap between education and healthcare, creating comprehensive programs for at-risk youth. They needed someone who understood both systems, but the personal cost of silence cut deeper. Another year of family dinners where my work went unmentioned. Another year of being introduced as my daughter who works at a preschool, while Michael got my son, the doctor. Another year of swallowing my pride while Dad attributed my career choice to not being cut out for real academics. I pulled up the Foundation's website. Their healthcare grant section showed pending applications. My stomach dropped. Brooks Medical Center had submitted a proposal for $5 million to expand their cardiac unit. Dad's pet project. He'd mentioned it at dinner last month, confident they'd get approved. The pieces clicked together. If I got this position, I'd oversee the team evaluating that grant. Dad's hospital would need my approval, or at least my team's, for the biggest expansion in its history. I closed my laptop and walked to my bookshelf, running my fingers across the spines of childhood development texts, neurological studies, educational psychology journals. My master's thesis sat between them, bound in Columbia blue. The Critical Window, Neuroplasticity, and Intervention in Early Childhood Development. Published in 3 journals, cited by 15 other researchers. Dad had never asked to read it. My phone rang. Dr. Patterson, my mentor. "Bethany, I wanted to check in about Thursday. You're still coming?" "I am, though my father expects me to help with his gala preparations that day." "And you're choosing the interview instead?" "Some opportunities come once." "Indeed they do. Margaret Harper specifically asked about you. I may have mentioned your innovative curriculum design and your ability to bridge educational and healthcare initiatives." "Healthcare?" "The Foundation's new direction. They want someone who understands that health and education are inseparable, especially in early childhood. Your work with special needs students, your collaboration with pediatric therapists, it's exactly what they're looking for." After we hung up, I made my decision. I wouldn't tell my family about the interview. Not yet. Let them think I was just the daughter who colored with children. When the truth came out, if it came out, it would be on my terms, in my time. Some opportunities come once. Respect should be constant. But sometimes you have to command it. Are you enjoying this story? If you've ever felt undervalued for your career choices, hit that like button. And if you want to hear more stories about professional women setting boundaries, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on. I know what it's like to have your work dismissed, to be seen as less than, because your passion doesn't fit someone else's definition of success. Now, let's see what happens when Bethany tells her family about that interview. Wednesday evening, I called Dad to tell him I couldn't help with the gala preparations. The conversation went exactly as expected. I have a professional commitment Thursday afternoon. Professional commitment? His tone dripped skepticism. Can't you reschedule? No, I can't. Bethany, this is my 40th anniversary. What's more important than family? It's professional development. A teaching workshop? Really? I gripped the phone tighter. It's an important opportunity. More important than your father's once-in-a-lifetime celebration? Michael's voice came through. He must have been visiting. Come on, Beth. It's just one day. Would you skip rounds for party planning? I shot back. That's different. How? Dad took the phone back. Your brother saves lives. There's no comparison. My work matters. To whom? The words stung exactly as intended. I heard Mom in the background. Don't disappoint your father. I'll be at the gala itself. That should be enough. Dr. Patterson will be there, Dad said, his tone shifting to manipulation. I already told her you'd love to see her again. She's flying in specially. My stomach clenched. Of course he'd invited my mentor, the one person whose opinion of my work mattered. But Patricia Patterson was also the one who'd recommended me to Harper Foundation. She'd understand. I'm sure I'll see her at the gala. She mentioned wanting to discuss some opportunity with you. Thursday afternoon, actually, at the hotel while we're setting up. My blood ran cold. What? Yes, she said she had some meeting downtown but could stop by around 4. I told her you'd be there all day, helping with decorations. The lie was so smooth, so calculated. He was testing me, though he didn't know what stakes he was playing with. Patricia's meeting downtown was my interview. She'd be on the Harper Foundation board panel. I'll see her at the gala, I repeated. This attitude of yours? My attitude? You mean having my own life? I mean being selfish. This family has given you everything. Everything except respect. Silence. Then Dad's voice, colder now. If you can't prioritize family, perhaps you shouldn't come at all. Perhaps I shouldn't. I hung up. My hands shook as I set down the phone. He'd uninvite me completely before admitting that my time, my career, my life had value. The irony was perfect. He'd invited the very person who was about to change my life, thinking she'd guilt me into submission. Thursday would be interesting. While Dad arranged centerpieces and tested microphones, I'd be interviewing for a position that would flip our entire family dynamic. He thought Dr. Patterson would be his ally. He had no idea she was already mine. Thursday morning brought 3 missed calls from Dad and a text from Michael. He's really upset. Just apologize. I called back during my lunch break, knowing I had 2 hours before the interview. I'm not apologizing for having a career. Your career? Dad's voice was sharp. Bethany, let's be honest about what you do. Please, enlighten me. You finger paint. You sing songs. You wipe noses. I shape futures. Michael shapes futures. He saves them. When Michael's patients are children, who do you think taught them to communicate their symptoms? Who taught them the vocabulary to say, "My chest hurts," instead of just crying? Anyone can watch children. Then why is there a 3-year waiting list for my classroom? Silence. He didn't know that. Of course he didn't. Why is Michael's time more valuable than mine? I pressed. He went to medical school. 8 years of training. I have a master's degree from Columbia. In education, it's not the same. You're right. It's not. When Michael loses a patient, one family grieves. When I fail a student, society loses a doctor, a teacher, maybe even someone who could have saved lives. Don't be dramatic. I'm being factual. But you've never asked about my work, so you wouldn't know. I know you make $35,000 a year. There it was, the real measure of worth in his eyes. Money determines value? It determines contribution, Michael's salary reflects his importance to society. So teachers are worthless? Not worthless, just less essential. Less than. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. Mom got on the phone. Bethany, please, just come help for an hour. I have an interview, Mom. An interview? Her surprise was genuine. For what? A position that would triple my salary. Still interested in my career now? Dad grabbed the phone back. What position? Where? Does it matter? According to you, it's just another step up in babysitting. This is exactly your problem. Always defensive, always making everything about you. When has anything in this family been about me? Name one time you've introduced me without apologizing for my career. One time you've asked about my work without dismissing it. Silence. I'll be at your gala, Dad. I'll smile for photos. I'll applaud your achievements. But I'm done pretending that my work doesn't matter. If you don't come help set up, don't bother coming at all. Is that an ultimatum? It's a consequence of your choices. Then I choose my interview. I hung up. An hour later, dressed in my best suit, I walked into the Harper Foundation building. Whatever happened next, I'd chosen myself. Finally. The Harper Foundation occupied the top 4 floors of a Manhattan high-rise. Margaret Harper herself led my interview, flanked by 2 board members and Dr. Patterson, who gave me the slightest nod when I entered. Ms. Brooks, Margaret began, your resume is impressive, but what intrigues me most is your practical experience. Tell me about your integrated learning program. For the next hour, I explained how I'd partnered with pediatric therapists to identify developmental delays early, how I'd created assessment tools that helped parents understand their children's progress in medical terms, how early intervention in my classroom had helped 12 children avoid special education placements later. Fascinating, Margaret said. We're launching a $50 million initiative bridging education and healthcare. We need someone who speaks both languages. Most educators don't understand medical terminology, Dr. Patterson added, and most medical professionals undervalue early childhood development. It's a critical gap, I agreed. When a 4-year-old can't grip a pencil properly, educators see fine motor delay. Doctors might see potential neurological issues. Both are right, but they rarely talk to each other. Margaret exchanged glances with her board members. Let me be frank. This position involves evaluating grant proposals from major medical institutions. You'd need to assess whether their programs genuinely serve educational needs or just pay lip service to get funding. She pushed a stack of folders across the table. These are current applicants for our $5 million healthcare innovation grant. I glimpsed the tabs as she spread them out. Mount Sinai, Presbyterian, Brooks Medical Center, my father's hospital. We need someone who understands both education and healthcare systems, Margaret continued, not noticing my reaction. Someone who can evaluate whether a cardiac unit expansion actually includes the childhood prevention programs they promise. Most hospitals promise education components they never deliver, I managed. Exactly. We've wasted millions on medical programs that ignore the educational piece. We need someone who won't be intimidated by doctors claiming their work is too complex for educators to understand. Dr. Patterson spoke up. Bethany has unique experience there. Her father is a surgeon. Margaret's eyes lit up. Really? That must give you interesting perspectives on medical culture. It's taught me that doctors often dismiss other professions as lesser. They assume medical training makes them experts in everything, including education? Especially education. They think because they went to school for years they understand how learning works. Margaret laughed. Oh, I like you. Tell me, how would you evaluate a proposal from a prestigious hospital requesting millions for expansion, but offering vague promises about community education? I'd require specific metrics, not just will provide health education, but detailed curricula, qualified instructors, measurable outcomes. I'd want to see budget allocations proving they're not just checking boxes. Even if the hospital had an excellent medical reputation? Especially then, Prestige in one area doesn't guarantee competence in another. Margaret closed the folder. The position is yours if you want it. We'll announce it at Monday's board meeting, but I wanted to extend the offer personally. My heart raced. I accept. Wonderful. You'll start in 2 weeks. Oh, and Bethany? That Brooks Medical Center proposal? It's one of our top candidates, but their education component is weak. You'll need to evaluate it objectively. Of course. As I left, Dr. Patterson walked me to the elevator. You know your father's gala is tonight. I know. I'll be there. So will Margaret. She's on the hospital board. The pieces were falling into place. I arrived at the Marriott Grand Ballroom 40 minutes late, my interview having run long. The space glittered with medical elite, 300 doctors, administrators, and donors, celebrating my father's 4 decades of surgical excellence. There she is, Dad's voice boomed from the stage. He was mid-speech, microphone in hand. Even my daughter could make it, between nap-time schedules. Laughter rippled through the crowd, some genuine, some uncomfortable. I found a seat at our family table as Dad continued his rehearsed humor. For those who don't know, Bethany works with children, very small children, the ones who haven't learned to talk back yet, probably why she chose that age group. More laughter. Michael caught my eye and mouthed, "Sorry." Mom studied her wine glass. My phone vibrated. An email from Harper Foundation. Congratulations! Your official appointment letter is attached. Margaret will announce it Monday, unless you prefer otherwise. Unless I prefer otherwise. I looked up at my father, holding court on stage, reducing my career to a punchline. Around me, his colleagues chuckled at his next joke about how at least one of his children followed in his footsteps. Michael will now present my Lifetime Achievement Award, Dad announced. My son, the doctor. My legacy in medicine. Michael took the stage, his speech polished and heartfelt. He thanked Dad for the inspiration, the late-night study sessions, the guidance through medical school. The audience hung on every word about following greatness, about carrying on tradition. "There's the babysitter!" Dr. Reynolds called out from the next table. "Did you bring crayons for us?" His wife slapped his arm, but he was 3 drinks in and pleased with himself. Others chuckled nervously. I smiled and opened my email again. The appointment letter gleamed on my phone screen. Director of Education, Harper Foundation. Starting salary, $120,000. As Michael finished his speech, I noticed movement at the ballroom entrance. Margaret Harper walked in, elegant in navy blue, scanning the room. She caught Dr. Patterson's eye, then mine. A slight nod. Dad was back at the microphone. I want to thank my family for their support. My wife, who sacrificed her own career for mine. My son Michael, who makes me proud every day. And Bethany, who is also here. The pause said everything. He'd literally run out of words for me. Some guests shifted uncomfortably. A few wives shot me sympathetic looks. My son saves lives, Dad continued, finding his rhythm again. My daughter, she's also here. Margaret Harper was walking toward the stage now, her presence commanding attention. She whispered something to the event coordinator, who looked surprised but nodded. Before we move to dinner, the coordinator announced, we have a special guest who'd like to say a few words. Dad looked confused but pleased. Unexpected praise was still praise. He had no idea what was about to happen, neither did I exactly. But I knew Margaret Harper didn't do anything without purpose. Let's bring the whole Brooks family up here, Dad said, riding high on the evening's momentum. Come on up, all of you. We walked to the stage, Mom in her elegant black dress, Michael confident in his tux, me in my interview suit I hadn't had time to change. The lights were bright, 300 faces watching. This is my legacy, Dad announced, arm around Michael. My son, Dr. Michael Brooks, continuing our tradition of medical excellence. Applause filled the room. Michael smiled, comfortable in the spotlight he'd been groomed for since childhood. My wife Susan, who gave up her nursing career to raise our children, More applause, though some younger women in the audience exchanged glances. And Bethany. He paused, that same hesitation from before. Who works with young children? The pause stretched. Someone coughed. Dad scrambled to fill the silence. She's always been the creative one, more interested in finger painting than anatomy diagrams. Nervous chuckles. I stood there, spine straight, watching Margaret Harper position herself near the stage steps. Michael here just published his third paper on cardiac arrhythmias, Dad continued, desperate to return to comfortable territory. Bethany makes construction paper turkeys. They're developmental motor skill exercises, I said into the sudden quiet, my voice carried without the microphone. Of course they are, sweetheart, the condescension dripped. Very important work, I'm sure. Dr. Brooks, Margaret Harper's voice cut through the awkwardness. She was at the coordinator's microphone now. May I? Dad looked confused but pleased. Margaret Harper was hospital royalty. Of course, Margaret. Everyone. Margaret Harper chairs the Harper Foundation, one of our most generous supporters. Margaret climbed the stage with grace. I apologize for interrupting, but I simply couldn't wait until Monday to share some exciting news. She turned to the audience. The Harper Foundation is launching a revolutionary $50 million initiative bridging healthcare and education. We've spent months searching for the right director, someone who understands both worlds, who won't be intimidated by medical complexity or educational theory. Dad nodded along, probably thinking she was about to announce funding for his cardiac unit. We needed someone extraordinary, someone with practical experience, academic credentials, and most importantly, the vision to transform how we think about health and education. Margaret turned to our family group on stage. Dad preened, assuming she was building to praise him. Today, we found that person. She looked directly at me. Bethany Brooks will be our new director of education, overseeing all educational initiatives and evaluating our healthcare grant proposals. The ballroom went silent. Dad's smile froze. Michael's mouth opened slightly. Mom gripped her clutch. Including, Margaret continued, her voice carrying clearly, the $5 million grant proposal from Brooks Medical Center. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Everyone understood the implication. The disappointment daughter would now evaluate the father's funding request. Dad's face cycled through emotions, confusion, disbelief, and finally, a dawning horror as he realized what this meant for his carefully constructed hierarchy. Can you feel that shift coming? If you're still watching, you're about to witness one of the most satisfying professional revelations I've ever experienced. But first, tell me in the comments, have you ever been publicly dismissed by family? How did you handle it? And remember, subscribe if you want more stories about women claiming their power. The next few minutes changed everything about my family dynamic. Let's return to that stage, where 300 people were about to see the real power structure. Margaret wasn't finished. She held up an official document, the Harper Foundation seal visible even from the back of the room. This appointment was unanimous, she continued. Bethany's innovative work in early childhood development, her published research on neuroplasticity, and her practical experience bridging educational and medical interventions made her the clear choice. Dr. Patterson joined Margaret on stage. I've had the privilege of mentoring Bethany since her Columbia days. Her thesis on critical windows in childhood development has been cited by 15 researchers nationwide. Dad found his voice. Her thesis? Published in 3 journals, Dr. Patterson confirmed. You must be so proud, Robert. The irony in her tone was subtle but present. Around the room, people were recalculating. The babysitter had publications. The finger painter would control millions in funding. Ms. Brooks, Margaret turned to me. Would you like to say a few words? She handed me the microphone. 300 faces waited. My father stood frozen beside me, his Lifetime Achievement Award suddenly seeming smaller. Thank you, Margaret, I began, my voice steady. I'm honored by this opportunity to bridge two fields I'm passionate about. I looked at the audience, Dad's colleagues, his peers, the people who'd chuckled at his jokes about my little job. The Harper Foundation understands something crucial: health begins in the classroom. The vocabulary a 4-year-old learns determines how they'll describe symptoms at 14. The fine motor skills developed through art projects become the steady hands of future surgeons. I glanced at Michael. Every doctor in this room benefited from early childhood education. Someone taught you to hold a pencil before you held a scalpel. Someone taught you to recognize patterns before you diagnosed diseases. The room was silent, attentive. In my new role, I'll ensure that medical institutions requesting educational funding actually deliver on their promises. Too often, hospitals treat education as an afterthought, a box to check for grant applications. Several administrators shifted uncomfortably. They knew exactly what I meant. She'll also evaluate our healthcare grant proposals, Margaret added, looking directly at Dad, including the $5 million request from Brooks Medical Center for the new cardiac wing. The murmur that went through the crowd was electric. Everyone understood. The daughter he'd just mocked would decide his legacy project's fate. But I'm sure there's no conflict of interest, Margaret continued smoothly. Bethany has already assured us she'll recuse herself from direct evaluation of family-affiliated proposals. Her team will handle those objectively. Dad tried to recover. I'm so proud of my daughter. The words sounded hollow after 20 minutes of public dismissal. This is quite a surprise, he managed. The appointment was finalized this afternoon, Margaret said. Though I understand Bethany had a scheduling conflict with your gala preparations. Good thing she chose the interview. The pointed comment landed. Dad's face reddened as people realized he'd tried to prevent me from attending the interview that just changed my life. Margaret continued her revelation with surgical precision. The Foundation's new initiative requires someone who won't be intimidated by medical jargon or institutional prestige. Bethany demonstrated exactly that quality during her interview today. She turned to the audience. When asked how she'd evaluate a prestigious hospital's proposal with weak educational components, she said, and I quote, "Prestige in one area doesn't guarantee competence in another." Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. Every doctor there knew their proposals would now face scrutiny from someone they'd dismissed as just a teacher. The Brooks Medical Center proposal, Margaret continued, requests $5 million for cardiac unit expansion with promises of community health education. That educational component will now need to meet Bethany's standards. Dr. Reynolds, who'd made the crayon joke, was doing mental math. His department was part of that proposal. Bethany's team will evaluate whether hospitals actually deliver educational outcomes or merely pay lip service for funding, Margaret explained. No more vague promises. She'll require detailed curricula, qualified instructors, and measurable results. Michael finally spoke up. Beth, this is incredible. Congratulations. His sincerity seemed genuine, cutting through Dad's frozen silence. We should celebrate, Mom said, finding her voice. This is wonderful news. But Dad couldn't let it go. You kept this from us? You never asked about my work, Dad. I would have what? Taken it seriously? You've had 34 years. Margaret intervened smoothly. Dr. Brooks, you should be proud. Not many children of prominent physicians forge their own paths so successfully. The subtext was clear. She succeeded despite you, not because of you. Several doctors approached me with sudden interest. Dr. Martinez from Pediatrics. We should discuss our early intervention program. Dr. Liu from Neurology. Your thesis sounds fascinating. Could I read it? The same people who'd ignored me at every hospital function now saw me as someone worth knowing. Bethany's expertise in early childhood development is exactly what healthcare needs, Margaret announced. Too many medical professionals undervalue educational interventions. That changes now. She handed me the appointment letter. Your first board meeting is Monday. We'll discuss the pending proposals, including Brooks Medical. Dad finally attempted damage control. We're all very proud. My daughter, the education director. But it was too late. Everyone had witnessed the transformation, from finger painter to power broker in 10 minutes. I should mention, Margaret added, Bethany's starting salary is $120,000. The foundation values education expertise appropriately. The number hung in the air. Dad had mocked my $35,000 salary an hour ago. Now I earned more than Michael. There's one more thing, Margaret said. Bethany insisted on no special treatment for family-affiliated proposals. She'll recuse herself, but her team's standards remain. Brooks Medical should prepare accordingly. The message was clear. Nepotism wouldn't save Dad's project. It would succeed or fail on merit, evaluated by standards set by the daughter he'd dismissed. Margaret handed me the microphone for a final statement. The room waited, 300 people who'd just witnessed my father's hierarchy crumble. I could have destroyed him then. Could have listed every dismissive comment, every public humiliation, every time he'd chosen Michael over me. Instead, I took a breath and chose professionalism. Thank you, Margaret, and thank you to the Harper Foundation Board for this opportunity. I looked at the audience. Doctors, administrators, medical professionals who'd spent the evening laughing at jokes about my little job. Early childhood education shapes the foundation of everything that follows. The children I teach today will become the doctors, researchers, and educators of tomorrow. Every profession that shapes lives deserves respect. I paused, letting that sink in. In my role at Harper Foundation, I'll evaluate all proposals objectively, based on their merit and potential impact. As Margaret mentioned, I'll recuse myself from any decisions involving Brooks Medical Center to maintain absolute professional integrity. Dad's face showed relief mixed with something else, the dawning realization that he'd now need to go through my team, meet my standards. However, I continued, I want to be clear about the Foundation's expectations. Any medical institution requesting educational funding must demonstrate genuine commitment, not token compliance. This means detailed curricula developed by certified educators, not medical staff assuming teaching is simple. It means budget allocations that reflect true investment, not afterthoughts. It means measurable outcomes that we'll monitor quarterly. Several administrators were taking notes. Good. My office hours will be Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. All inquiries should go through official Foundation channels. I looked directly at Dad as I said this. No special treatment, no family favors. I look forward to working with all of you to bridge the gap between healthcare and education. Together, we can create comprehensive programs that serve the whole child, not just their medical needs. I handed the microphone back to the coordinator. Thank you for allowing me to share this announcement. Please enjoy the rest of your evening celebrating Dr. Brooks's remarkable surgical career. The dismissal was polite but clear. This was still Dad's night, but the power dynamic had shifted irrevocably. As I stepped back, doctors approached me with business cards and partnership ideas. Dr. Kim from psychiatry wanted to discuss early intervention for childhood anxiety. Dr. Foster from orthopedics had ideas about motor skill development programs. They spoke to me as a colleague, an equal, someone whose approval they needed. Dad stood beside his Lifetime Achievement Award, watching his colleagues court the daughter he'd publicly dismissed 20 minutes earlier. Michael joined me, sincere in his congratulations. Beth, this is huge. Why didn't you tell us? Would anyone have listened? He had no answer for that. Mom hugged me, tears in her eyes. I always knew you were special. You never said it. I should have. I'm sorry. Dad finally approached, his voice strained. We should talk. We should, during business hours, about your proposal. Bethany. It needs work, Dad. The educational component is weak. Your team promises community health education, but provides no specifics, no curriculum, no qualified educators, no measurable outcomes. You've read it? Of course, it's my job now. The reality hit him then. His daughter, The one he'd called a babysitter an hour ago had already professionally evaluated his life's work and found it lacking. My office can provide guidance on strengthening the educational components, I offered. Standard consultation is available to all applicants. I was offering him what I'd never received: professional respect, even if it wasn't personal warmth. The boundaries were clear. This was business now. The reception after the announcement was a study in shifted dynamics. I stood near the bar, surrounded by doctors who'd ignored me for years, now eager to discuss partnerships. Dad held court across the room, accepting congratulations that felt hollow now. Dr. Reynolds approached, the man who'd made the crayon joke. Bethany, about earlier. No need, I cut him off. Though you should know your department's youth outreach program is under review. His face paled. I wasn't aware. Most doctors aren't aware of educational components in their own proposals. That's the problem. He scurried away. Word would spread. Good. Dad finally cornered me by the dessert table, away from witnesses. Why didn't you tell me? You never asked about my work. I would have supported you. Really? Like you supported my master's degree? My research? My teaching? Silence. You know what hurts most, Dad? You invited Dr. Patterson tonight thinking she'd shame me into helping with decorations. She was on my interview panel. His face flushed. I didn't know. Because you never asked. You assumed my mentor would side with you, that she saw me the same way you did. Instead, she recommended me for a position that oversees your funding. Michael joined us. Dad, let it go. Beth earned this. I know that, Dad snapped, then caught himself. I mean, of course she did. Your proposal needs work, I told him directly. The educational section is 2 paragraphs of buzzwords. Margaret wasn't joking. It won't pass as is. You'd tank your father's project? I'd apply the same standards to everyone. That's the job. This is revenge. This is professionalism, something you should recognize. Mom appeared with Margaret Harper. There you are. Margaret was just telling me about Bethany's interview. Apparently, she was extraordinary. The best candidate we've seen in years, Margaret confirmed. Her understanding of both educational and medical systems is unique, must come from growing up in a medical household. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Dr. Brooks, Margaret continued, your hospital's proposal has potential, but the educational component needs substantial development. I'd encourage you to consult with Bethany's team. I'll consider that. I'd do more than consider. The board meets in 6 weeks to review all proposals. Without a stronger educational framework, Brooks Medical won't make the cut. She said it pleasantly, but the message was clear. Your daughter now holds your legacy in her hands. After Margaret left, Dad stood there processing this new reality. His colleagues kept approaching me, not him. His funding depended on standards I would set. His professional world now revolved around the daughter he'd dismissed. I need time to think, he said finally. Take all the time you need. My office opens Monday. The formality stung him, I could see it. But these were the boundaries now. Professional respect without personal warmth. Exactly what he'd taught me my whole life, just reversed. 3 weeks later, my assistant knocked on my office door at Harper Foundation. Ms. Brooks? Dr. Robert Brooks is on line 2. He says it's about the proposal. This was his 4th call this week. Transfer him. Bethany, Dad's voice was different now, careful. I wanted to discuss our educational framework revision. All proposals go through official channels, Dr. Brooks. Submit your revision to the review committee. Could we discuss it over dinner? Your mother would love. I don't discuss work outside the office. You can schedule a consultation through my assistant. This is ridiculous. I'm your father. Which is why everything must go through proper channels. No special treatment, remember? He sighed. The team doesn't understand what you're asking for. They don't understand basic educational methodology? That's concerning for a teaching hospital. Silence. Then, could you recommend an educational consultant? My assistant has a list of approved consultants. Standard rates apply. After I hung up, Michael texted, Dad's driving everyone crazy about the proposal. He's hired 2 education PhDs. Good. He should have had them from the start. He keeps asking Mom to invite you to dinner. I'll come to dinner when he can introduce me without apologizing for my career. That evening, Mom called. Your father's been reading your thesis. Only took him 12 years. He's trying, Bethany. He's trying because he needs my approval for $5 million. That's unfair. Is it? He discovered respect for education the moment it affected his funding. That's not growth, Mom. It's pragmatism. What do you want from him? Nothing. I wanted a father who valued my choices. That ship sailed. Now I want professional courtesy, which I'm getting. A month later, Brooks Medical submitted their revised proposal. It was excellent. Detailed curriculum, certified educators, measurable outcomes, appropriate funding allocation, everything I'd required. The review committee approved it for $3 million, not 5. The reduction wasn't my decision, I'd recused myself. But my team applied the standards I'd set. They funded only what had clear educational impact. Dad called immediately. $3 million? The committee's decision was final. But you could... I recused myself, as promised. This is about punishment. This is about standards. Your proposal was approved, just not at the full amount. Many institutions received nothing. He was quiet. Then, the educational program you required, it's actually innovative. Pediatrics is excited about it. Good. That's the point. I've been talking to other departments about integrating education into their proposals. Also good. You've changed how the entire hospital thinks about these grants. That's my job. Another pause. I'm proud of you. The words I'd waited 34 years to hear, delivered only because I'd forced his hand. They should have meant everything. Instead, they felt hollow. Thank you, I said professionally. Is there anything else? Your mother wants you at Thanksgiving. I'll check my calendar. The power had shifted completely. He needed my approval, sought my expertise, called me with questions, but it wasn't the relationship I'd wanted. It was the one he'd created. Professional distance, achievement-based respect, emotional boundaries. He'd taught me well. 6 months after the gala, I stood in the Brooks Medical Center's new education wing, the one my standards had shaped. Dad gave a speech about innovative partnerships between healthcare and education. He mentioned my name 3 times, correctly identifying my title each time. Progress. Michael pulled me aside during the reception. He's changed. Has he? He funded 10 scholarships for early childhood educators. Name them after you. Name them after my title. The Bethany Brooks Education Excellence Scholarships. Still, it's something. And it was. Dad now championed early childhood development at medical conferences. He quoted my research. He introduced me as my daughter, the education director at Harper Foundation, without a trace of condescension. But we both knew why. At family dinners, he asked about my work. Real questions, not performative ones. He'd read articles I'd recommended. He understood finally that teaching required expertise. Yet the warmth I'd craved as a child never came. We had professional respect built on necessity, not the unconditional pride I'd seen him give Michael. I've been thinking, Dad said one evening, after discussing his latest educational initiative. I was wrong about your career. I know. I should have seen your value earlier. Yes. Can you forgive me? I looked at him, this man who'd needed to see my power before seeing my worth. Who'd discovered respect for education only when it affected his legacy. Who'd learned to value teaching because he had no choice. I love you, Dad. I'll always love you. But forgiveness? That's earned through understanding, not necessity. I understand now. You understand that education affects your funding. That's not the same as understanding why teaching matters. He nodded slowly. How do I learn the difference? Volunteer in a preschool. See what we actually do. Not for a photo op or a grant requirement, just to understand. Would you, would you let me volunteer in your old classroom? It was the first genuine interest he'd shown in my work without external motivation. I'll ask Ms. Martinez. She took over my class. 3 weeks later, I watched my father, the renowned surgeon, sit on a tiny chair, helping 4-year-olds with pattern blocks. He was terrible at it. His hands, so skilled with scalpels, fumbled with child-safe scissors. He spoke in medical terms the children didn't understand, but he showed up, every Tuesday, without photographers or press releases. It's harder than surgery, he admitted after his 5th session. Different skills. I see why you loved it. Maybe that was enough. Not the validation I'd wanted as a child, but the understanding I'd demanded as an adult. I still maintained professional boundaries, still required his proposals to meet standards, still refused special treatment. But on Tuesdays, I'd stop by the preschool and watch him learn what I'd always known: that shaping minds was just as vital as saving lives. He still didn't fully understand teaching, but he respected power. And sometimes, that's all you can ask from someone who only learned to see value through achievement. What boundaries do you need to set with family who don't value your choices? Thank you for watching Bethany's story. If this resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more stories about professional women setting boundaries with grace and power. Share in the comments. Have you ever had to prove your worth to family who didn't understand your career choice? Remember, every profession that's done with excellence deserves respect. You shouldn't have to wait for a power shift to receive it. Check out my next video about a nurse who exposed her hospital's discrimination at their own board meeting. Until next time, keep setting those boundaries. See you there.